The attack on Pearl Harbor was a surprise military strike by the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service upon the United States of America against the naval base at Pearl Harbor in Honolulu on Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941. This attack led to the United States' formal entry into World War II the next day. At the same time, Adolf Hitler, a ruthless dictator, had arisen to power in Germany. He would be responsible for the deaths of millions of Jews and many others, enslaving them in death concentration camps. He tortured them in unimaginable ways prior to killing them. His goal was to take over the world with his ideals, and he was succeeding until the United States and the Allies stepped in. Vernon Schmidt was a young teenage boy from California, 16 years old in 1941. A few short years later, he would risk his life to bring liberation to the captive Jews. He would fight for freedom in the midst of terror. That was 75 years ago. Today, I had the opportunity to sit down with Vern in an interview.
I was in 41, I was 16 years old, and it was on a Sunday. I'll never forget. One of my brother-in-laws, to-be, he and I were walking down the streets in Reedley after church, and we heard a radio in a little store there, and it was talking something about we have been attacked. And the next day, of course, the news started to come out on the radio and so forth. And it was very sobering. So we knew something was going to happen very soon.
World War II was fought between two groups of countries. On one side were the Axis powers, including Germany, Italy, and Japan. On the other side were the Allies. They included Britain, France, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, India, the Soviet Union, China, and the United States of America. Do you remember what was the climate of the U.S. in that day between 41 and 44 when you enlisted? Did you, as a young teenage kid, did you understand what was happening in the rest of the world at the time?
Well, about all the news we received back then, which was totally irrelevant from what we have today, we had only the radio or a newspaper. And of course, we began getting reports from what was happening over in the Pacific, where the Japanese had attacked us on Pearl Harbor, and it wasn't good. We suffered terribly. We were really not prepared as a nation for this. And my dad had served in World War I, and he knew. He just said, you know, this we're going to be in this thing, whether we want to or not. So.
Let's talk a minute about, a lot of people don't know much about the Holocaust. They don't know. Now, history has shown us that millions upon millions of people were killed, Jews and gypsies and people that were disabled. A whole lot of different people were killed. When you were, during that time, did people know how many lives were being lost? What Hitler was doing back then?
I don't think so. Hitler had manipulated his entire country into a belief that we were going to conquer the world. He came out of a depressed area and began to put highway construction throughout his country with one motive in mind. I'm going to build highways so we can transport troops and vehicles and armor and tanks. At the same time, they were going through a depression, just like we had in the late 30s and early 40s. So if a mouth is hungry and needs to be fed, you're really not going to question the plus or minus of where that food came from. You're interested in getting it into your body and nourishing it. So the nation united, Germany united in that respect. And of course, then he began to take the power and said, unless you're with me, I'll take care of you one way or the other. Many German civilians were killed innocently for not standing behind him. The propaganda was, if an American soldier came in there, you're dead meat, they'll kill you. And we didn't come to conquer, we came to liberate. We came to liberate.
Take us for a second into the mind of an 18, 19-year-old young guy who is over there in a foreign country, a foreign land, fighting, seeing bullets whiz by, hearing grenades going off, and you're there to liberate the Jewish people. What's going through your mind as a young kid? Is it just, I just want to survive and do what I've got to do? Or what's going through your mind?
Well, you know, I had my 19th birthday on the ship going overseas, and I had no idea what I would face except the training we had. But you think, well, it surely won't be like that. But it was worse. We were scared. There's no doubt about it, we were scared. Had I not had a background of Christian background in faith from my parents, from my church, and my family, I'm not sure I'd be here today.
Of the 16 million Americans who served in World War II, more than 400,000 died during the war. At the end of the war, there were approximately 79,000 Americans unaccounted for. This number included those buried with honor as unknowns, officially buried at sea, lost at sea, and missing in action. You mentioned your faith and how you grew up with some Christian morals and values and that inner faith. And while you were over there, what was that scene like? Were there other guys that you were fighting next to that were believers and followers of Christ at the time? What was the feel then?
Yes. At occasions, we would have an outdoor chapel service if we were quiet enough where we could sit down. They'd just bring a Jeep up with a chaplain, and we took the hood of the Jeep was our communion table, and the word was given, and we read out of the Bible. We were sitting out there sitting on our helmets just on the side of a hill, and it would again kind of regenerate you because you are separated. When life is in a precarious where it could be life or death in a matter of seconds, you do some serious thinking. And I reflected back home. I was engaged to my wife, who you have met, and her letters written every single day. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. God is going to be with you. And just a side note, our church there had 40 of us went off to World War II, 40 of us. Our name and a little star was up on a plaque right up in front of the church. And they started a prayer chain. There was someone in that church on their knees 24 hours a day, mentioning us by name. And as a result, all 40 came back home. All 40, not one of those. Now, they were injured. My brother was severely wounded, captured by the Germans, liberated later on. When my brother went over in the service, I was working on the farm with my dad, and we were like pruning peach trees. I'd be in one tree and he'd be in another, and I could hear him quoting the 91st Psalm.
He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence.
You know, he was giving us some solid stuff early on. So when I went in, I thought, boy, he's got it already set up for us, you know. And I could hear him sing. And he would sing to the Lord, and, "Hey, God, you're going to take care of us guys." And he did. That's their symbol of freedom. And they need to know why this happened. They just didn't evolve and start coming in and enjoying life. There was a price to be paid. 400,000 of my guys in World War II paid the ultimate price for that freedom. I just feel the younger generation needs to have a historical track of what happened, why am I here, and why do I have this freedom? I've spoken in many schools, and some of them just look at you like, "Wow, are you a zombie?" You know, because you're prehistoric to what you're telling them. They just haven't the foggiest idea that why can they walk up and down the streets without fear? You know, why can they go to school and receive an education? Why can they be so free in everything they do and say? It's because somebody paid a price. Mm-hmm. Somebody paid a price in World War II, which was the turning point. It was a world war